Welcome back to Hardware Unboxed, monthly Q&A time. August?
Yep, that's right, August.
August, because September's when I lose my life for probably the rest of the year because we're just getting an onslaught of products. So August, the last time you'll see me relaxed for the year. But anyway, Q&A part 1, we asked you guys for questions. Tim's picked out some good ones apparently, and we're going to get into them. But before we do, today's sponsor spot is brought to you by Thermal Grizzly and their new 12th gen CPU contact frame by DeBauer. It's well known that the integrated loading mechanism, or ILM, of the LJ1700 sockets bends 12th gen CPUs, leading to an uneven contact surface that reduces cooling performance. Solving this issue, the contact frame replaces the ILM, allowing for a much more even contact with the CPU's IHS and the base of your cooler, which in turn reduces operating temperatures. Installation's quick and easy, and thanks to the use of anodized aluminium, the contact frame is non-conductive. And then, for those of you who wish to further maximize contact, Thermal Grizzly now offers an optional lapping tool, so for more information, please check the link in the video description.
Big question here, bit of a hot topic, let's say. What are your thoughts on the whole Linus Tech Tips backpack saga? Gamers Nexus did a video today, so that would have been probably a few days ago by the time this comes out, saying that they would still treat LMG the same way they treat any other company or manufacturer since they're putting themselves in this position. It's interesting because it seems like this issue has been very polarizing, despite the backpacks now having a solidified and written warranty.
So we've not discussed this at all.
Yeah.
Often we discuss topics days ahead of time and we, comes up in a Q&A and we answer it. But I don't know Tim's thoughts on this. He doesn't know mine. I'm mostly, I believe, up to speed with this. I have the GN most recent video. I fully watched that. I even watched it when they touched on it before the warranty was a warranty. So I think I'm pretty well in the loop on this one, but I haven't really followed the Twitter back and forth that much. Do you want me to give my opinion first?
Yeah, sure.
So I'm not gonna get into, well, I'm not initially anyway. I'm not gonna get into every bit because we could honestly, I think, go back and forth and talk about the different angles and who thought this and who thought that and what should have been done for probably over an hour. I'm just going to say it. I think that my opinion is it's sort of a big deal over nothing, and let me elaborate on that. Obviously, it's great. You want to have a warranty, especially with an expensive product like a backpack. Where I'm coming at it from, I guess, is I think a few people are acting like, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but people have been done wrong by Linus Tech Tips. See, we will go after companies when there's evidence of people being wronged, like the product's been defective and they haven't been given the appropriate level of support, or a product hasn't been created properly and the company hasn't, acknowledged that. They're like, no, it's fine. That's normal behavior and it's, it's not working. Whereas it appears that they make great merchandise.
Has the backpack even shipped to anyone yet?
Well, but forget the backpack because people are sort of acting like this is a whole new thing for them, but they've been making clothing items, cushions.
I don't even keep, to be honest, I don't really keep up with YouTuber merch and YouTuber merch drama that much.
Steve from Gamers Nexus said it, like it's a big business for them. They have a lot of products. They've been offering them for many years now, as t-shirts, hoodies. I think Jocks, he does underwear, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
I etched into my brain was Linus wearing his Speedos or something at one point in time. But they create a lot of merch. Now, what's their history like? Are there people that have been getting LTT merch and the quality's been subpar, or there's been, defects or issues and they haven't replaced that? They haven't looked after their core fans, their customers. So I actually don't know what their history is there, but I've never heard anything bad about the LTT store.
I think that's fair. Yep.
So as far as I can tell, they've not actually wronged anybody, any individual. Nobody's been ripped off or no one's had a bad experience with LTT. Like, there's we think PC Case Gear is brilliant. They do a good job. They have like a 5-star rating on Google, but there's still people like, I can't believe you work with PC Case Gear. This one time, this absurd scenario happened and I wasn't happy. So I'm sure there's somebody like that with LTT, but I think by and large, people are happy with the product and the service they provide. They haven't really needed a written warranty to this point, I guess. They did it as a fun thing like we do, merch, and then it blew up and they now sell in massive volumes. But whenever there's been a problem, they've handled it. They've not wronged their customers. So they haven't really needed this official sort of warranty procedure that you see from other companies then, I think probably Linus initially was sort of like, come on guys, I'll look after you guys. We've got a good reputation. I'm not going to screw any of our fans or customers or whatever you want to call them over. And so he probably was still maybe in his mind thinking about it as sort of this small community thing that they do rather than being the epic, huge, massive thing that it is.
Yeah.
So that got, and sure, proper written warranty, great. And they went and did that. And I think that's great. And that really probably should have been the end of it because their warranty, as far as I could tell, was acceptable. And then the most recent drama with Gamers Nexus. Steve didn't want to call it drama. That's fair enough. And we've got nothing against Steve from Gamers Nexus. Friends with Steve from Gamers Nexus. Talk to him privately a lot. Same with Linus from LTT. And we've met Luke in person. Great guy. So we like both sides of this. And I don't even think you want to make it that there's sides because I think Steve was sort of just saying that.
Yeah.
But I just thought the whole thing was a bit unnecessary because treating LTT like anyone else. Well, they haven't really done anything wrong yet. At least in my opinion, you could say the worst thing they did was they made a sort of on-the-nose T-shirt design about the whole thing, which I honestly don't care about that. I know Luke seemed pretty... I think Luke was more upset with Linus's attitude towards the whole thing, which I
wouldn't want to speak for them. So
sure. That's what Gamers Nexus covered, though, and you could see Luke was definitely not agreeing with Linus and was uncomfortable with his take on it. So that's something those two will have to sort out and probably should do before they had the WAN show. But yeah, the T-shirt thing I don't really have too much of a problem with. I get that it's a bit on the nose, but also people these days are just, in my opinion, way, way too sensitive to what us Aussies would call a bit of a piss take. It's like, have a laugh, get over it, move on. It's not that serious. And again, one thing I didn't like about what Steve from Gamers Nexus did in his video, and again, not causing drama with Steve or calling him out because I respect Steve and I think they do a great job. He sort of compared it to that doofus artesian build guy.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't really like that because he screwed people over. He treated his employees like crap. He was a bad guy. Linus, as far as I can tell, hasn't wronged anybody. He hasn't...
It's a completely different situation.
He's not deserving of that comparison. I get where Steve's coming from, but the T-shirt, I didn't like that comparison because one guy... I can't really say my thoughts on him. And then Linus is, Linus. So anyway, I don't know if I've answered that very well, but that's sort of where I'm at on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I think my thoughts are that definitely Linus should have had a warranty, a written warranty before selling products. Like, I think if you're going to be producing a big enterprise and producing lots of products, probably one of the things to sort out first. Yeah. And I think some of the concerns over not having the warranty was less that Linus is screwing people over and there's no protection for it, but sort of more the potential for that to happen, which I guess goes to what you think of their company in general, like whether how concerning that is to you is going to be relative to how badly you think they run their business.
Which they couldn't even do in Australia anyway.
Yeah, so the worse they run their business, the more you'd want a really rock solid warranty. So I think there's definitely a lot of valid points being made about how the warranty should have existed prior to producing the products. But from my perspective, I don't think I'd go as far as what you've been saying, but I certainly think that when it comes to a warranty, it's only worth as much as the paper it's written on, so to speak. Like, companies make warranties to protect themselves, and they're always going to make very broad terms in their warranty. So things like general wear and tear are always listed pretty broadly. Like, some companies may think general wear and tear is throwing it into a volcano and pulling it back out, and that's still not general wear and tear, and they may still replace the product for you. Whereas other companies are going to interpret general wear and tear to mean something like you just got a tiny little bit of paint on it and suddenly it's out of warranty. So from my perspective, when it comes to things like warranties, the actual having of the warranty, having it written down, the terms that are written in the warranty matters less than how the company operates in general. Because there are many examples of companies with warranties written down that still treat their customers terribly, that still will just deny warranties for extremely egregious reasons that are not fair at all. And then there are companies that operate their warranties in a much better fashion.
Yeah, where it's what they can get away with in a given region.
I don't think it's even a region thing. It's about how they want to operate their business. Like, some companies want to treat their customers
there's definitely
better.
companies we work with that the warranty is handled very differently in Australia to Indonesia as an
Oh,
example.
I'm sure that's true, but I think that's a separate issue.
Yeah,
I'm just
sure.
talking more about there are companies that want to screw over their customers as much as possible versus companies that actually do want to replace
Yep.
products.
Yep.
So I think from my perspective, I think it was very harsh, a lot of the commentary on Linus not having this warranty, because for me, what's more important is the business practices.
Yeah,
Like
that's where I was coming from.
How you run your business. And I think Linus, as you said, hasn't shown that he
To our
screws
knowledge.
people over with warranty-related issues.
Unless we're missing something.
Yeah, there's plenty of companies that do that, and that's where you want the warranty to have legally written terms that you can then throw in their face when they refuse to do things.
Because they can accept the backpack back even under warranty, but then you don't get a replacement for 4 months down the track, and then it looks like that one.
Yeah, exactly.
That one doesn't have the damage that yours did, but it's clearly used. It's been like a dodgily refurbished model. All those kind of things can still happen under warranty and technically be legal.
Yeah, so I think, from my perspective at least, the warranty there should be a warranty, but I would always be purchasing products, especially something like that where, backpack reviews, who knows. But I think the reputation of the company, how they operate, the known business practices are far more important than the actual written warranty.
Yeah, totally agree.
The written warranty is kind of like, they should have it as a boilerplate, but what's actually written in there, unless they've written it in a very watertight way that really helps consumers, then most of the time they're going to try to screw you over whenever possible. Not that I'm saying Linus would do that, but some people are even looking at the terms of the warranty, I believe, and being like, wow, this doesn't cover anything. And it's like, yeah, that's the point. Warranties don't cover you. They cover the company, and companies are always going to, as I said, depends on the business model. And I think the country thing is also very important, because the way that warranty, you're more likely to get a good warranty experience in a country that has really strong warranty laws, really strong consumer laws and protections. So for us here in Australia, we have very strong consumer laws, which means that a lot of terms that companies put in warranties are either not enforceable, not valid, whatever you want to call it. So we can get refunds and exchanges and repairs on products regardless of what the warranty terms say. So there's all sorts of different things that, don't really want to go into the Australia specific stuff, but we have really good consumer law. Other countries like the United States have much weaker consumer protections. So the warranty terms are much more important there. So again, it's like, are the other terms that important when your country may override them, and where you live?
To recap and answer the question, though, because the answer is, what do we think about the GN and LTT drama?
Right. I don't really care about the drama at all.
No, I don't.
I'm perfectly honest.
So I think initially Gamers Nexus had a point. Gamers Nexus weren't the ones that were sort of leading the charge on this. People, I don't know how it came up on Twitter or whatever.
I think it was a Reddit thread or something.
Something about LTT not having a warranty, which is very fair, as you've said. And look, I agree with that part. They should have one, but for me, that doesn't change whether or not I would buy something from Linus, especially if I've had, I've bought this from, I've bought that from them. It's all been a good experience. And if there's been any problems, they've honored that. And I haven't seen threads online with like LTT misalignment on water bottle, and, they're telling me that's how it's meant to be, tough luck type deal. So I think the initial thing sort of saying, come on, LTT, get a warranty. You guys are big enough, you sell enough stuff, have a warranty. I think that's valid. As for sort of the most recent, the sort of follow-up video, I don't know. Like, it wasn't that I didn't disagree with really much of, or anything really of what Steve said. I didn't like one of the comparisons he made that much. That could just be a bit of a misread on my behalf. Didn't disagree with him. I just didn't find it terribly necessary unless there's evidence that Linus has done the wrong thing. Because, like, you go after Gigabyte with their power supplies because they were selling a product that blew up and they weren't acknowledging that. NZXT had a product that could burn your house down and they weren't acknowledging that. NMAX had a product that would gunk up and stop working and cause your system to crash. And I don't really know how they were handling that. There's been, tons of examples. We caught out Asus selling a card that for 6 months they basically lied about until it was proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that it was a mounting issue with the cooler on the graphics card, and that's why people were having all kinds of problems. And you go after them because there is a problem and they're screwing over their customers and not addressing it. But again, I'm not aware of any of that happening with Linus, so I don't know why that would sort of come up.
Yeah, he did. But it seemed Linus like Linus was a bit frustrated by it. I kind of get that position, because, like I said, I think it's kind of it's blown up a bit more than I think it should have. And again, I guess I'm not saying that you should just go and trust companies blindly when they have no warranty. Like, it's not a good that's not a good thing to say to. I shouldn't be saying to you as a viewer, please buy from a company that doesn't have a warranty and just give them a try because they've never screwed anyone over yet. But I think, like I said, you kind of have to judge the company based on their actions as a whole. So a very new company that's established very much needs to have a warranty because there's no other information to go on. So ideally, as we said, Linus should have had a warranty from the very start. So then, as trust builds up, until the trust is built up, there's a fallback warranty. There's a fallback position that people can use and look at and be like, that was the policy they had at the time. Whereas I think now Linus, his operation is big enough that there's a good idea of how he runs his business. So it's kind of a case-by-case scenario, isn't it? You can't just... I don't want to sit here and say, never having a warranty that's acceptable all the time, or you must have a warranty all the time.
Well, but they made the warranty and then they made the silly shirt, is my understanding.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't care about the shirt at all.
No, neither do I. But that seems to be what a lot of the drama is about. The continuing drama seems to be about the fact that they made like a meme type merch deal about it, and that Linus still isn't understanding both sides of the... He's sort of focused.
Oh, right.
That's what it seems to be.
Like, if I'm perfectly honest, I don't care.
Well, so to answer the question, Tim doesn't care.
I mean, it's YouTuber drama. It's like...
Yeah. I mean, it's...
I don't care. Like, I get the position that people are coming from in that I guess the T-shirt could be interpreted in an offensive way if you were a person that was, criticizing the warranty, being like, you need to have this warranty, and then they make a shirt being like, haha, joke's on you.
We made the warranty.
We made the warranty, and now we're sort of insulting you over it with a T-shirt. It's like, okay,
I get why that's on the nose.
It's probably not something I would do, but also...
I can't guarantee I wouldn't.
It's like, YouTuber drama is like the least of my concerns, really.
Yeah.
I think the more interesting discussion is more around how companies deal with warranties.
Yep.
And I think this is unfortunate for Linus, he has to deal with this, but it's kind of a good learning point for a lot of people in how where warranties do and don't matter. Because I imagine that a fair few people read the Linus warranty, and that was sort of the first warranty that ever actually read in depth.
They got really interested in warranties.
But
like I said, we can go on and on and on, and I think that I think we agree largely over the actual that the bulk of the conversation. And then the outlying stuff you don't care about, it's like whatever. So
yeah, I mean, I guess the reason why I haven't cared too much about it is that I keep seeing this thing pop up, and I'm like, really? People are still commenting about
like
this?
I said,
it's still ongoing?
Like I said, I really only care if viewers in our audience, consumers, have been wronged in some way, which is how we've always, we've only gone after companies or products when people are getting screwed over by them.
Yeah. Recently, you've demonstrated DDR5 6400 bringing tangible benefits for Spider-Man Remastered. Do we know which DDR5 spec would likely be in the high-end sweet spot, replacing today's DDR4 3200CL14 and DDR4 3600 CL16 spot?
Without a crystal ball, I can't really answer because I don't really know over the next year or two how the DDR5 picture will develop. But I would say something around the 6400 sort of lower latency range, or maybe even like 5800, 5200, really low latency. Not sure there. Because 3200 eventually became like an official spec.
Yep. Yeah, it did.
With no timings attached to it. Whether that would happen for like 6400, I mean, how many CPU generations are we now into DDR4? Like
many.
A lot.
Many.
So the question, if you're asking that question relative today, it's really like, what will be the standard for DDR5 in 5 years from now? Do you care to have a guess? Yeah, it's very hard to say. So that's where we're at with that one. I can't answer it. We'll just have to wait and see. Alrighty. Do you believe the next generation of GPUs will utilize PCIe 4 more effectively? As in, will there be a larger performance penalty for putting it into a PCIe PCIe 3 slot as opposed to current gen GPUs. I don't think too much will change there. I think it's more about pretty well what we've seen with like stuff like Spider-Man with ray tracing enabled. It's the games and how they utilize the card, how they access various memories, and how they go about doing things as to what'll see that change in PCI Express usage. I think that'll be the primary driver. We've seen with graphics cards, it's really just down to how many frames you want to drive as to how much PCIe bandwidth it uses, and on the high end, it's like a 5% difference. So I think it'll be a fundamental change there in the way that games work. I think the main driver.
Maybe potentially when they start integrating things like direct storage, which is supposed to decompress assets on the GPU directly from storage. Obviously, that will have to go through the PCIe bus. So potentially, it's going to become more relevant for something like that. But we're talking theoretically there. And really, I think with a lot of these questions about PCIe usage, it's mostly going to have an impact when companies like AMD, for example, decide to make significantly cut down cards again.
Yeah.
So if you had a 6500 XT tier product that was much faster, but it's still using ×4 bandwidth, then that's only going to get worse and worse in terms of how bottlenecked the ×4 interface is. So hopefully, maybe AMD will not do a ×4 interface on the next gen cards, and we see minimum ×8, but ideally the full ×16.
You really want the full ×16, especially for entry level. It's like ×8, yeah, okay, but anything above that, like the next tier up, and certainly the next tier above that, definitely full. Which is why I didn't like that was the problem with the RX 6600.
Maybe it's okay if you know everyone is going to be on a PCIe 4.0 system, but we're still not at that level yet. Like there's still a lot of people using older systems that are PCIe 3.0 only.
It's going to be very educational and interesting when we do get direct storage in a title that does use that heavily, and see how these past GPUs like an RX 6600 fare. Could be, it could be very interesting. Crystal ball. I'm glad they actually said crystal ball, because I think the last few questions have required the crystal ball, but that's okay. I know you guys get excited about the upcoming stuff and you just want to get our opinion on it. With next gen CPUs and more support for DDR5, how long do you expect DDR4 to be readily available, and do you expect price drops / increases on new DDR4 kits the further we get into DDR5's life? Will DDR5 become cheaper than DDR4 is / has been?
It will definitely become cheaper, because it becomes out of production in a significant production run on DDR4, then the prices go up.
Yeah, I think he means cheaper than DDR4 is presently. It'll be hopefully, ideally, the same, similar.
Yeah, I mean, it's inflation and all those sorts of factors. So you'd hope it would get around the same price,
which is historically what has been the case. DDR4 was really expensive compared to DDR3, and then sort of came down. Then DDR3 started to go up as it became more scarce, and people still wanted to upgrade older systems with DDR3 memory.
I think we'll see DDR4 still for many years, because
absolutely,
there's still a lot of need for those. We're just moving to DDR5.
The overlap period generally takes place over about a 5-year period for each generation, and then there's quite a few years there where that's the dominant, obvious memory, and then the new one comes in, and the cycle repeats. All right, Tim, I'll stop asking you this one. When playing games, you stick with the default key / button bindings, or do you customize them? And the commenter says, I personally stick with the defaults, as they tend to work just fine.
Yeah, I almost always stick with the default settings. There are obviously some game exceptions where they've done just idiotic key bindings. And like if there's games where they've not used standard bindings, like a game where they've mapped, say, run not to the shift button, which it is in basically every single game.
It's like R for run instead of reload.
Yeah, so if reload's a different button, then I might change those to sort of the more natural thing, and then think in my head, what on earth were these developers thinking? Have they ever played a PC game before? But that's really what it takes for me to change the settings. Otherwise, I just go full default.
Yeah, I usually start with the default, and then I generally tweak it ever so slightly, just to a few things that suit my play style. So that's it. Usually just some minor changes there, but I guess as Tim says, it sort of depends on the game. Some games are really good, and some are just a complete mess. But I think by and large they make sense.
I think that earlier in sort of PC gaming, maybe a decade ago, there were games where you couldn't even change the key bindings at all. Like
Sure.
it just wasn't a feature because that's how little effort
Mhm.
developers were putting in.
A lot of ports back
A
then.
lot of ports. Whereas I think these days developers, are seeing PC as a much more legitimate platform that's actually making them money. They're putting the time and effort in so that they're using key bindings that make sense. So it's very rare, I think, these days where you need to make bulk changes. It tends to work pretty well out of the box. So yeah. Do you think that the 5800X3D can potentially cannibalize sales of the lower models in the Ryzen 7000 series?
Well, I'll just get my crystal ball out. No, in all honesty, no, I doubt it. I think if someone's going to be building a new computer, or they're looking at putting quite an investment into a gaming PC, once that next generation's out, I think they're probably going to want to jump on AM5, get some DDR5 memory, a decent motherboard. Hopefully AMD commit to sort of AM5 officially at some point around the release. They may have by the time you watch this, actually. We don't know what's going to happen with potential announcement that could potentially happen before this video. So a few things that we don't know at the time of recording this. But no, not really. The 5800X3D, that I see that really as being sort of an upgrade opportunity for those of you using older CPUs that want to keep your high quality AM4 motherboard in service a bit longer. I think you'd be going with a sort of a Ryzen 5 7600X for different reasons, really, I would say. And that CPU could potentially be better value for productivity, a more well-rounded CPU. So, and more platform features, all that sort of stuff. So I don't think that's going to be a situation that you'd have to worry about there.
Yeah, it's hard to recommend people to, if they're building a new PC or wanting to do a platform upgrade, so they'd be considering the old part, to recommend buying a platform where there's no future CPU releases.
Yeah, well, if the Ryzen 5 5600, for example, which is, I think it goes for as little as $170 US, if that CPU had a massive frequency bump, a good IPC improvement, a huge increase in memory bandwidth, it's probably not going to make a $450 CPU from the previous generation all that appealing when you consider all of those pros for the newer entry-level Ryzen 7000 CPU.
With the Ethereum merge coming soon, more GPUs used for mining are expected to flood the market. Since Ethereum miners overclock the memory and hit it hard at 24/7, it's been speculated that memory performance could be degraded compared to graphics cards never used for mining. Is this true? Would you be willing to buy used mining cards and test if the performance is different from new cards? So, good news that the Ethereum merge is coming. So that'll help out a bit. But yeah, definitely there'll be a lot more used GPUs flooding the market. I think as far as the memory performance stuff goes, obviously if you overclock beyond the rated specification of the card and you're running that for a long time, it's going to potentially be wearing down those components and making their lifespan shorter. So by the time you're buying that used GPU, theoretically, you're going to be closer to the end of the life of that memory. But if you're not, I think, overclocking the memory yourself and you're running it more default spec, is it a significant issue, especially if you're getting a big discount on that card?
I'm not sure the concern so much that the memory will die. I think it's more that it degrades to the point where it can't sustain those frequencies anymore, so you may have to dial it back for stability.
As in to sustain the overclocked frequencies or the base frequencies? Because I think getting the base frequencies still likely after overclocking for that period.
I think so, but even if you had to drop it down, a bit, so be it.
Yeah.
But it is speculation. It could be that they're perfectly fine because there's other... It's not just about overclocking something that degrades it and running it for a period of time. There are other stresses involved, like heat cycling and stuff like that, which miners wouldn't be doing. So it could be that that's not a concern at all. It could be that having the memory, temperature elevate and drop off and elevate and drop off degrades it much more over that period of time. Not sure with memory. I know that's the case with silicon, for example, but that's all speculation. As for would we buy some and test them? No, because
big lottery on that.
It's it's a waste of time. Our conclusions and opinions on that would be worthless because it would be a sample size of what? How many are we going to buy? 1, 10, and then different miners will use them differently. They will have been in service for different periods of time. We know virtually nothing about the history of the card. We don't even really half the time, do they even advertise them as being mined on, or is it just the market gets flooded with a whole heap of whatever GPUs? Some of them may say they were mined with, and some may say definitely never mined with, and they definitely were.
Yeah,
You're buying secondhand items off eBay, so
yeah, and I think there's a lot of fear that people try and instill about the sort of mining card situation, where people are always like, you can't buy a mining card. Don't buy a mining card because they're garbage now. You know, they've been flogged to death. They're not going to work perfectly. But I don't think there's ever been at least a significant body of evidence to suggest that that's actually true. As in, like, mining cards definitely are way worse than buying new cards, and that, you know, they're not suitable. They die easily and quickly. I think.
Well, they're worse than buying new, but I think
they're definitely worse than buying new, but relative to the price.
Used gaming cards. I mean, like, if you have the option of buying, I don't know, an RTX 3080 that's been in a mining rig for 2 years now, opposed to one that's been used by a gamer.
Yeah, but even then, is the stock performance of the used mining card lower than the new card?
Yeah.
I mean, has there ever been a lot of proof to show one way or the other on that? I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's as long as you're getting a good deal on that card, like it's cheap, like you're not paying new prices, which would of course be very silly.
Yep.
But you're getting a good deal. You sort of acknowledge that it's a mining card. I don't think you should have too many concerns over that. It's like, it may die earlier, but that's you buying used. That's just the lottery.
It's the pitfalls of buying a used card. And you've always run the risk of stuff like that happening, dying out of warranty or whatever. So, but
you could get a really good deal.
As Tim says, if it's cheap enough.
Yeah, exactly.
I would be comfortable taking the risk. And if it is a situation where the market is heavily flooded with certain models and we see them drop in price, which we've seen for CPUs before when, you know, server farms have updated a particular CPU and the market gets flooded with tens of thousands of that model, they're selling for peanuts. So I'm not saying that'll happen with GPUs, don't get too excited, but they will probably end up being a bit cheaper than normal. And
if you can take advantage of a miner, I mean, why not at this point? Seriously.
I would like that to be. I would have preferred if you had a cryptocurrency miner.
No. Damn it. Cryptocurrency
maybe we can dub over that when you're talking about taking advantage of them. But let's move on.
Okay, I think this was a heavily upvoted question, so let's get into it. With the recent release of Spider-Man Remastered on PC, a port I honestly didn't think would happen, but wanted badly.
Yep.
What console exclusive do you two want to see come to the PC the most? So, Steve, can you name any console games?
Name
a console.
It's the PlayStation's a console.
Yeah.
I think 5 is the most recent one.
I believe so.
I don't actually know what the most recent Xbox is. Xbox Series S?
Yeah, the
something?
Series X, yeah. An S.
S?
There's an S and an X.
Yeah, I know he's about consoles, see?
Okay.
He gave me a test and I passed that with flying colours.
Nice.
But as for exclusive games, I'm drawing a blank.
Yep. All right, I'll give a few names.
Like Forbidden West is a new one of the Horizon series, right?
That's probably one of the ones I would have said, because the previous Horizon game ran really well on PC, I thought. Looked good.
It was awesome. And we still use it for testing.
So the sequel came out, was it earlier this year, I think? You wouldn't know. You'd have no idea. I believe the sequel came out earlier this year. I've been playing it on PS5. It's really good, so I think that's probably a good candidate. Mm-hmm. I think of the games I've played on PS5, probably things like Ghost of Tsushima was really good as well. I think that would be like a good visual test for PC as well. I think it came out a couple of years ago now. Maybe like The Last of Us Part 2. I believe Part 1 is already...
I've heard of that game.
Yeah, The Last of Us Part 1 is already about to come to PC soon, I believe. Right. But Part 2 is, you know, a big step up visually. Mm-hmm. But are they remastering it? Again, I'm so out of touch on... If any games that are on PC, I play on PC. And then the console ones are on console. So I never really... Like, for example, Spider-Man Remastered.
Spider-Man only just came out. It's a brand new game. So, it just came out for the first time.
No one's ever been able to play it before now. I certainly wasn't playing it on a PS4 years ago or anything. Anyway, let's move on.
When starting Hardware Unboxed, did you think you would have such reach with your channel as you do now? I don't know. It's not something I ever thought about, I guess, is probably the most honest and easiest way to answer that. It wasn't like... Yeah, I guess the answer is no.
Yeah.
I guess the answer is no, but it also... It wasn't the motivation for doing it was to make it a successful YouTube channel. Really, I started it's pretty funny. I started the YouTube channel in exactly the same way I actually got the job 20 years ago. So I got excited playing with computer hardware, wanted to learn more about it, wanted to build my own gaming PC, play, I think it was Quake Rocket Arena at the time, and Command & Conquer. Wanted to play those games on my PC. So I started doing it, got passionate about it, wanted to start learning more about it, and started my own tech site. And then with YouTube, it was like I had already done that side of it, but I wanted to then, create the video side of things, learn video, audio, video editing, all that kind of stuff. It was like a new sort of journey. It was exciting learning those new skills. But there was really no thought into what it could be or what we wanted to make it. It was just, let's just continue to try and make the best tech-related videos we can make. And so far, that's led us here.
Yeah, I think it's very much not about, trying to be an influencer or be famous or whatever and, have all that sort of clout that comes with having a following or whatever. It's very much like, I always had faith that we could make the channel work. Like, it wasn't like we were sitting around being like, we're making terrible content, this isn't going to go anywhere. I was pretty...
Depends who you ask.
Well, I guess it does depend on who you ask, but I think a lot of the stuff we were making was pretty reasonable, but it was never like, we need to do this to get into a position where we're going to influence people. It was always, I totally agree, it's about like learning new things, trying to do a good job of what we're trying to do, and all that stuff sort of, it's just part of it. It's never something that we sort of sit back and thought about too much. It's been an interesting journey to go from doing mostly written stuff where you're very much anonymous. You can sort of,
which I liked.
Yeah, you just make the content, it goes the way it is, and now, there's so many comments on our videos, there's so much discussion on places like Reddit and stuff. It's been really crazy, to be honest. It's been, quite a journey. So I appreciate everyone that's been watching the channel and puts us in this position, I guess. But it's very strange. It's not something you ever plan for or expect, I don't think.
All right, we'll pause the answering of questions there for now. The halfway mark, part 1 done. Part 2 coming. I think we have a little announcement that might be happening between these videos. Little announcement.
Who knows?
Perhaps. So this will come after that one, so about 2 days from now. But anyway, thanks to everyone who asked questions. Hopefully happy with the answers. And that's pretty much it for this one. We'll get moving with part 2 shortly.
Yep.
You happy with that, Tim?
Yeah, well, we've got our Patreon and our float plane.
Oh, yeah, we do have those.
Yeah.
What do you do with them again?
I think you subscribe to them and you give us money, and then we use that.
I've heard enough.
For buying things.
Yeah, we sometimes buy things. But yeah, you do get access to our Discord server, exclusive for members only. Very cool place. You can hang out and talk tech and a variety of other things. There's so many channels within the Hardware Unboxed thing now that I've lost count. We do a monthly live stream. That's pretty good fun. Tim and I get together just like this and we waffle along. So that's definitely worth paying for. Behind the scenes content and Q&A stuff. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. I'm your host, Steve.
I'm your host, Tim.
See you next time.